I would say that the child becomes more tuned in to the food relationship of their parent than the spouse or their close friends. And so the child is tuned into, how does this affect me and my relationship with them? And so there was a time when I was around 15, 16, and I'm standing in the kitchen and my father walks in. He worked from home. So this was not infrequent for him to do this. And he walked in and I could feel, palpably feel, without even seeing him, because he walked in from behind me, I could feel that he was in that, I need food and I need this particular food right now. It's fascinating that I would know that. It's fascinating that I would already have developed those senses that I would feel that. And that's exactly what the child will do, is that they will be able to feel their parents' relationship with food and know, well, maybe it's in relationship to alcohol. My father needs a drink right now. Or for me in my home, my father needs his snacks right now. My father needs this. My father is looking for that. And if I can even be the one to give that to him, even that secures my relationship with him more.
Now that is, so that on the food level I get, because a child bringing food to a parent, um, that's sort of acceptable. But when you're bringing in the survival piece, and I better get that piece of food to my parent fast, right? Or something snarly is going to happen, or something rejecting, or something's going to explode, or or they might just go elsewhere, right? Just get very dissociative. Can you speak to those states that a parent might go into?
So when we have this survival mode for food, then everything becomes so narrowly focused on, that's what I need and I need it right now. So if a parent is now entering that state and progressively getting deeper into that state with every second that passes, then if their child has some need, maybe their child needs a glass of water, maybe their child just injured themselves, fell down, scraped their knee, and they're coming in for comfort, they are not going to be getting that attunement and presence from their parent. When the parent is in that fixated mode of, I need this food right now, that is the only thing that they can be present to. The only thing that they can be present to. The mind can really only be present to one thing at a time. And so it's either the food or the child.
Well, okay, here's an interesting thing because children, people who have weight, I'm sorry, it's the park is full of blossoms right now.
Yes.
Um,
Allergy season.
yeah. Um, Children who have parents with eating issues often have them themselves, right?
Exactly.
So can you describe that co-state? I think you touched on it here in saying, you know, it's a way to not lose the parent, right? To enter into this behavior with them and to please the parent and to also not reject the parent who's I know my mother was very loved sweets and she was always trying to get me to eat sweets as rewards as this as that and I didn't really like sweets and it probably caused a kind of a rejection of her on my part. But can you touch on that? Because that's a truly sad phenomenon when you see the parent having having disordered eating, and then you see the child taking it in and adapting the behavior.
It's actually quite similar to what you describe as these cycles of the use of the substance. And there's this pre-use phase where progressively the parent is becoming more and more obsessed, and that's the only thing that they can think about. They're consumed by it. And during that phase, there's really not availability for relationship with another because that's all consuming. Once they've consumed, now you have this window in which they have had their anxiety quelled and they're looking for that sense of connection. I'm not alone. And that's a key window in which many children with their parent will want to be there because they realize that's when my parent seems to care for me the most. That's when I seem to actually have access to my parent the most, is when we're sitting down to eat that cinnamon roll, when we are cooking pastries together and eating them at the same time. And so why wouldn't I, as a child, adapt to that in order to have the connection that I need? It's not in the way that I would want to, but I need that connection. And as children, we are the ones who are going to adapt to that. So it's very similar to what you've laid out in your model for this, the availability of a parent for the relationship in these different phases, the pre, the kind of under the influence, and then the post and that beginning of the withdrawals.
The interesting thing about food to me is that with alcohol or drugs, there is a built-in boundary. Now, a lot of kids talk about discovering alcohol and drugs at 9 or 10 or 11 or 12, but food starts tiny little ones. Little toddlers are, and does it become a shared form of co-regulation so that it is, in a sense, a transitional, children have these transitional objects, right? Teddies and stuffed animals and things they take with them that is transitioning the parent into an object that they can hold and control. And they can take them from place to place. But is food both becoming a form of co-regulation with the parent, shared regulatory state, and a transitional substance?
I find it interesting that our relationship with food begins very, very young.
Mm,
And it's very much, it is going to follow our parents' view and their relationship with food. Let's even go back to when we are newborns and we can't even feed ourselves yet. What was that process like? When was food offered as the solution? Was it offered whenever I was fussy and food just became the solution to all upsetness? Here, be quiet. Was this a time for connection? Was it the time of with the breastfeeding, a time of actual connection? Or maybe I was breastfed, but I was under a blanket and my mom was busy and talking and working, and there wasn't the relationship
mhm,
with the food.
mhm,
Or
mhm,
maybe I was bottle fed and maybe it was here's a bottle, shut up.
mhm,
And then we look at toddlers. And still to this day, I see this phenomenon happen quite a bit. Family walks into the bank and the child starts to become a little upset, a little unquiet. They're children. And what are they
mhm,
offered? A lollipop.
mhm, mhm.
And
Yeah.
so food now becomes the solution for everything.
Mhm,
If you're upset, here's food. If you want a reward, here's food. But it's not as much a part of the relationship as we would want it to be. So then that's where the dynamics of our using food to feel a certain way and to create connection in a certain way starts to develop. Because if I can see that, oh, my parent wants to connect with me in this specific way, in these specific moments, I am going to bend over backwards as the child to be who they want me to be in those moments. Of course, sacrificing myself and who I really am for that relationship, but that's what I'm going to do as a child. And so the dynamics of that, I will be who you want me to be in order to have the connection that you're willing to give me at this moment, actually starts much, much younger, with looking at what were the early experiences of food in a relationship and in connection.